Welcome in, everyone, to the Season 6 premiere, Episode 1, first episode of our now 60th... I never know. Anyway, this is the creative moment. I never know if it's like 51 or 60, but it's 51. Our 51st episode of the creative moment. Dante Boyer, Jamie Bullhauer. 3 studios later, 6 seasons, and we're still going.
Still going.
And it seems like every other time that we film this, it's either snowing or 70.
Yeah, snow's coming.
It's Nebraska weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with our topic for...
I don't even know what flavor I got.
Blood orange.
Oh, okay. That's one of my favorites is blood orange.
Yeah, you and KK both. So whenever I get it, I don't drink it because it's usually gone before I get to one.
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
Today we are talking about the, not importance, but I guess the value of being spontaneous or the spontaneity, if that's how you pronounce it, in the creative space.
Yes.
And if you don't know what spontaneous is, kind of random, off the cuff, out of the blue, what that characteristic plays into creativity, whether it's like, like you're just randomly on a Sunday afternoon, you're bored, you're like, I'm gonna go do a photo shoot, or you talk about on your walks how sometimes a muse can just hit you there and you stop and either write something down in the notes or whatever.
Or I see some crazy cool photo and I'll take it.
And tries to execute it as best he can.
Someday, what? Episode idea, evaluate one of my photos, one that I try to take seriously, and then break it down. And
Noted.
And then you would have to write a poem, though.
Hey, I can sling those words down.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead and start off
there's something that when you do something out of your routine, which maybe is the whole definition, because we'll probably get to where you can actually talk about how you can actually schedule the time to kind of be spontaneous.
Brought that up right before I pressed record, and I was like, okay, we'll see where this goes.
But when you just on the whim, or yes, when the music strikes, but when you do something outside your normal routine, your energy spikes, your creativity or new ideas are generated. And sometimes it's just a small thing, but other times it can be a real jolt, especially if you've been, to a degree, your vacations after you've had that long stint of doing work. It's like, I got to change. I got to get some fresh aspect. And there's so many different ways in the creative aspect, but also just the joys of life and getting out of the routine just a little bit, just to give a little jolt to what you're doing.
Yeah. It's always funny. I always find it funny studying kind of the balance of having and being in a routine versus we have a routine to break it, but then if we're out of the routine too long, we're longing to get back to the mundane routine and the scheduled stuff. So I think it's important to have that balance, right? Because if you're just all the time just kind of going with the flow, like loyal to the wind type person, your life just doesn't feel very structured, and it's hard to really know when those spontaneous decisions are right or wrong because you don't have a kind of a foundation to fall back on, so to speak.
Well, and I don't think you can grow an unpopular opinion. But it's like if you're just always on the whim, you're not concentrating on your fundamentals either, which a part of a routine, because and we talked about building in routine, time to learn, time to work, and so then that gives you a strong foundation or strengthening your skills. So when you are spontaneous, or when the muse really does hit in a really unique way, you can execute at a higher level.
Yep.
So
an example of a kind of spontaneous moment within kind of a vacation. So I went to Yellowstone last September, and as me and my friend were just driving out of the park, like our day was done, we did our super long hike. We went to Artist Point, like waterfall, and hiked like 8 miles or something around. So we were in the car leaving, and traffic. I did not realize the extent of traffic in Yellowstone during like rush hour morning, rush hour evening. It was standstill because it's just a 1-lane road, one way out of the park, like on the west side and then like the south side. So it was standstill traffic. We'd been in traffic for like 45 minutes and gotten like maybe a mile. So I was getting a little fed up because I'm like, I was starving. It was like 7 p.m. at this point. We tried to leave at like 6. And we saw this bison, and it's actually that photo up there. We saw this like buffalo or bison that was just like right in this little kind of pocket of trees with a mountain in the background. I'll probably flash a photo up there. The light was just hitting kind of the tops of trees. Like it was picture perfect. And we're both sitting there and we're like, really want some pizza right now. But we saw a little pull off. So we pulled off. We got out. We spent like 30 more minutes just photographing that bison. Just kind of like, you know what, just do it. And we've touched on, I've shown you the video of haunted by the photos I didn't take. Peter McKinnon. So it was kind of okay, I don't like, yeah, it's just a photo. And then that whole experience happened, and it was like the best 30 minutes of the day because you just watched the sunset and you just kind of like, sound corny, but like felt like with the nature, connected to the moment type thing, very present in the moment. And that's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken to date. And it wasn't something that we planned. It wasn't on our hike, any of that. But it was just a super spontaneous moment that ended up being a photo that I deemed worthy of printing 2 feet by 3 feet and hanging it up in my apartment.
So. And there's two that, one, like you didn't have to do it. You could have like, okay.
And it was easier not to.
Yeah, it was easier not to. And that's sometimes the problem with you even, sometimes the muse is that urge to, try, if you're at a restaurant, actually try the special. Even though you like to always eat the, and then you go, well, it's a risk. Yeah, it is a risk. But that's the jolt. That's the energy. And then if it is a failure or didn't, okay. Like, in all honesty, okay, you didn't like the meal.
Yep.
But yet, the chance of having a good one, or even like, oh, well, maybe having my steak this way with mushrooms, or just that aspect is what
Spontaneity. We'll have to look up how to pronounce it. That was our bad. We should have researched that. Yeah, we're a very spontaneous podcast. Yeah. We just hit record and we're like, let's do it.
Spontaneity. Yeah. Okay.
I'll look it up.
It's all good. We're already... So in that sense, there's a couple ways that I think you can do some things just in your everyday aspect. Because I was thinking about this, I've been
spontaneity. Thank you, Google. A couple different ways
to you can infuse it. All right. So part of this topic was generated from my blog post about Spotify's AI DJ mixing option that you have to go into to change so that your playlist will actually be as close to random as possible. So because when I go on a walk, I have to and I hit random, but it's just like I just kind of notice.
I always see the posts on Twitter like it's not random.
It's not random.
It's not shuffle the extent of the playlist.
Right. It's because there's some rules within it that it won't play artists back to back. So that was like one of the major rules, and that it also tries to give you a similar sounding experience. So if you've got an eclectic mix, like you choose an eclectic mix, you're probably not going to hear some songs ever.
Yep. So
you have to turn it off. It still doesn't make it 100% random, but it's much closer. That idea is like, I want, like, when I'm out walking and I'm listening to music and I'm thinking, like, that's what I want. I want the pure random and just be jolted with a song and it'll take me back to a memory or get me high, it'll change your emotion because I have that kind of playlist. It is eclectic as heck.
Yep.
And in our lives on Amazon or whatever, we're always being told, oh, here's a suggestion according to what you like. And so in a way, even our daily life is very routine, even when we think we're venturing out, because we're not. We're just matching what Amazon is telling us you have bought before.
There's kind of a whole section in The Social Dilemma on Netflix. Great documentary if you want to watch it. But about how the algorithms in these social media apps try to dig you deeper into your own views.
Yeah.
So that when you think, oh, maybe I don't agree with this, it's really not that far out from what you were really thinking. It's just testing to see, okay, let's see if they gravitate more towards a little bit of this topic, whether political or anything.
Anything. Yeah, my app formerly known as Twitter feed now is very writer heavy.
Yeah.
And I'm following like almost 3,000 people.
And writing Twitter is probably 10-15% of your total following.
Yeah. But that's what comes across.
So it's become increasingly harder to be truly spontaneous and break out from that kind of rabbit hole of your life or your views or all that sort of stuff. And so you really have to make that concerted
you actually have to make a choice to be at times.
Okay, now I kind of see where you're going with the plan to be spontaneous thing. It is typically, at least from my experience, it is easier to not do the spontaneous thing. It's much easier to be in the routine.
Yep.
Just kind of stay with the flow of how you've been living or doing things. But even like if I brought it to the photography space, trying a different sort of editing style, like.
You were doing at state basketball. You did the double exposure thing, and
that was a super spontaneous thing.
Yeah, so some of them I really liked. A couple I was like, oh, but that's true. Yeah. Like, oh, I didn't like that one, but I mentioned on that one with the crowd underneath, I was like,
and the tip off.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
And so I was just trying to learn how it blended the images and stuff. And I was mainly there to do my job and stay on time. So I would take a couple at the beginning of the game and be like, all right, we're not getting anything good on video. Just see what you got out of there. But yeah, so during state basketball, I decided to do double exposures in camera. So nothing was, other than the color grade, nothing was thrown together in Photoshop or anything like that. And I'd never done that before. I just kind of woke up that morning, and the day before, I had tried the video on the court thing, which, wow, that is hard. But that morning, I was like, that was really, really fulfilling. And it was a little stressful because, like I've talked about, those are very time-sensitive things, and that took quite a bit of time to do. But I woke up, and I was like, that was a really fun little kind of experience to do. I'm like, I've always wanted to do, because I see one of my favorite photographers works for the Bulls, and he loves doing double exposure stuff, and he knows how to do it really well.
Well, he's built the foundation to it.
So I just decided that morning, like 20 minutes before that first game started, let's just try and do these for the C1 games today. And I liked how some of them turned out, and I hated how some of the other ones turned out, but that was like a super cool thing, and another, like we talked about, gadget in the tool belt that now I can at least somewhat say, oh, if someone like wants to do something cool, be like, hey, watch this. Like maybe I can incorporate that into senior photos and do something cool.
Yeah.
And actually use it now as a skill that I have because of that spontaneous decision that day.
Yeah. And that's one of the hard parts of that, is that sometimes, honestly, the muse or the idea comes because it's probably because you've got a deadline, you've got other jobs to do,
a tight deadline,
and your spirit is like, hey,
and it would be super easy to just say, I'll just do it
some other time. Yeah, but when it strikes and it adds and it kind of fills your bucket, and gives you the energy to do the routine stuff. And that is one of the hard parts. I was thinking with the Spotify thing, but also one of the things I'm doing this year when we visit the library is I'm just randomly choosing a book. I just go, I walk, and then I kind of look at the cover. I know, don't judge a book by a cover, but anyway.
It's part of the cover presentation.
Yeah, that's why they have covers.
Different topic.
Yeah, different topic. Anyway, and so I've read a really interesting book on the wolves population coming back in Canada and stuff like that I never would have before. Read a fiction one that was really kind of cool story, murder mystery, and it's usually not my genre, but it leads to exposure and getting out of the echo chamber of just what you think the world is.
Yep.
Now there's been a couple books I didn't finish. So I was like, okay, no, not. But that's all right because the experience lends itself to actually then being okay with doing this, the whatever is driving you to experiment with or try, and even the smallest things, like trying a new poetic form, can lead to something cool. And even if it's a failure, because we've talked about what you do with the bad stuff, and stuff. Well, by going through the process, you learn something anyway.
Yeah, and a lot. I would say most of the time, those decisions, if you go look back on them, will be a net positive experience.
I don't think you can regret it a little bit, like maybe your dinner. And again, just using a simple example, creativity is more complex, but. Yeah, maybe you didn't like it. Okay, it's still like conversation with people and stuff, and the experience, and maybe there just was a component of it, and you liked some of the other parts of the meal, but you don't know. And a deeper component to this, which I believe is you find out who you are by also experiencing things that you don't like or that you find resistance to. Because that gives a different edge to you. You're not always just I'm really trying to decide if I can do slam poetry or not. I went and competed last weekend and I got last. And so but it raises that question. Maybe I can't. I'm not giving up yet, but it's like, okay. Pay attention to what's going on, So I think you learn by the negatives too, of who you are, what your creativeness is.
Yeah, and a big thing that I've kind of built some of my core values on in my life is how do I say this? The more variety in your life, good and bad, it ends up being more fulfilling and a much richer life than if you're like, okay, I know what I like you said, go to the restaurant, order the same thing, get the same meal, it's good, I like it, okay, cool. I feel like there's a different sort of enrichment and fulfillment through going through the vast extremes of experiences and emotions. Like I just got back from Arizona a couple weeks ago. My favorite restaurant that we went to, like, it was huge. It was like indoor, outdoor, a bunch of lights, all this stuff. I had like chicken pasta thing, and I'm like, oh, that sounds great. I like chicken, I like pasta. The noodles were green. I don't know what the chef term is for it, but the noodles were green. It was terrible. My least favorite meal the whole time. And we had like ham and cheese sandwiches, and those were better. Oscar Mayer, great job on the ham. But that experience, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was a worse meal. There was good aspects. The atmosphere and the lights and stuff and the weather, like, it was still a net positive time. And it is now like, okay, it's on the lower spectrum of, oh, it wasn't a very good meal, but it's still an enriching, fulfilling experience. Just because I'm like, well, you know what? I knew I would like the chicken tender basket or whatever. Yeah. But it's different, and it keeps you kind of stimulated, and like you're just kind of, I feel like it's very fulfilling to have those extremes in experiences. And spontaneity a lot of time lends itself to a higher peak or lower valley than you're typically used to with I know what I'm going to get here. I know what my experience is going to be.
Yeah.
Like if I went back to the same same mountain in Colorado, did the same hike, took the same type of photos. It would be cool. I know the photos would be good. I know I'd like it. But it just, there's a different feeling if I'm like, okay, what if I go to this part of the Rocky Mountains? It's just different. Good, bad, or otherwise, it leads to a more full life.
Yeah. And even a bad experience or a bad song you listen to or just something out of the norm can actually still lead to an inspiring moment. And obviously the written word and dealing with that, I've got some poems, rough draft wise, that I've gotten lines or ideas from these books, and getting letting the muse sit. And even though, because I actually have one from the wolf one.
Interesting.
It is. And it's all about, bringing the numbers back but learning about, their habitats and their habits and stuff. But there's just this line. And it's like, and I have this poem that is centered on it. It's going to use it kind of as a metaphor, but it's not what the poem is going to be about. And that's the beauty of stepping out of the routine and doing something random or on the fly or whatever, that it just ignites your creative spirit, and like you're going, oh, that's gonna be kind of cool, and you can work on that, and you don't get it's not that you can't be inspired by the routine, because it is, but there just is so much more. Even if you take a different route to your job tomorrow morning, guarantee it's gonna be different. You might be a little bit more stressed because you don't know the timing. You might be inspired by something you've seen that you never saw before.
You're more aware.
You're more aware.
You're really experiencing the moment a lot more.
Yes,
because it's so different from what you normally do, and that's where the good or the bad, it does lead you to round out yourself as a person. You find out, okay, I hated that route. There was this elementary school that had all this traffic, whatever. It just gets you to be a fuller person.
Yeah. Which I think then benefits your creativity or whatever your artistic expression is.
Right. Like if I choose this editing style, I'm like, okay, I want to try something different. This is not working, whatever. Okay, didn't like that. Now I know, like, okay, what parts about that didn't I like? Because I was more alert of, okay, how is this going to change the reds or the temperature or whatever. Now I know, okay, I like to keep this color range in this sort of hue or whatever it is. All that stuff ends up being a positive, whether the experience was bad or good.
So, be more spontaneous.
Yeah. Not all the time.
Stick
to the routine, but and so if you want to touch on scheduling that out, is it scheduling a
well, so that's like, in the sense, because you do, so let's
like your
use
library
it really
thing is kind of
it's like I just decided to do that. But even if you take the idea of driving to work, so if you know, like, okay, Thursday I'm going to try a new route, so that your stress level doesn't get too bad. Like, again, part of our routine is to help our lives go on a smooth route. So if you know that you're going to do that, and you might be going a couple miles or so that it's scheduled so you don't cause unnecessary stress, because then all of a sudden it does become a negative. Yep. If you're going to try a new painting style or something connected to the idea of doing, don't worry if it's going to be perfect or not. If that's connected to some of the other stuff. Like, don't worry if it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out.
If I were to base my graphics for state basketball on the double exposures, I'd be super stressed about the double exposure. I'd be like, we got to nail these. Holy cow! Because I was like, this is just kind of a fun little add-on to my day. It was a very, very low stress thing. I mean, I didn't worry about it at all because I knew, okay, I got the photos for the graphics. I got everything I need. This is completely supplementary to what I need to do. And so, yeah, that does take the stress way down. And it's more, the decision might, or the action might not feel as spontaneous, but the decision ends up being a spontaneous decision, even if you plan it ahead of time.
Right. And in regular life, the idea of date nights or doing those things, or even scheduling not your work, but your playtime, your relaxation time, and staying, because the schedule is there to help our lives run smoothly, not be chained to it and feel like that's the grind. So that's why you can build in, or say, I'm going to take a walk with my notebook and pencil today. Like, carry it with you. I know. I remember last time I was like, be comfortable feeling odd, and then all of a sudden when you just get hit, just stop. Right?
Yep.
You can build in those little things, and sometimes just roll with it when that creativity hits, or the muse hits, or the idea. Just do it. Just try it.
I still ate the pasta. Hated it, but I was hungry. I was really hungry, so I still ate it. I was like, well, whatever. I paid for it. So, it was bad. Green noodles with not that much chicken. I didn't like it. There was no side. With that, our season 6 premiere is in the books. Thank you to everyone that's watched, listened, supported the podcast throughout. Now the 5 complete seasons, going on season 6. Kind of feels crazy that it was over like a year and a half ago now, almost 2 years.
Yeah,
it was 2 summers ago. So thanks for everyone that sticks with us. Again, we're on Twitter/X for our personal and business side. We put a lot of creative stuff out on there. Also on Instagram. Our podcast is on Spotify. You can watch or listen on Spotify. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all the things. So if you don't know where to check us out, basically any podcasting platform, you can find us. So thanks again for all the support, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.